bonus episode? Bonus episode. Hey everybody, I'm Ryan Doyle. This is the Verdigris Table where I just had a great conversation with Pittsburgh Pat. We were talking magic items and many other things. We broke it down 5 apiece for tier 1 uncommon magic items and tier 2 rare magic items. We went through some really great creative uses for these and man, I just had a ton of fun. If you enjoy this half as much as I did, you're going to have a good time and come away with some really good ideas. My wheels are turning right now. The first half is here on the Verdigris table, tier 1, levels 1 through 4 traditionally, although later level parties can do some interesting stuff with a lot of these things, though the selections that we made. And the rest of it, the tier 2 magic items, are going to be over on Pat's channel. So check him out here. Great dude. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe to this too while you're at it. But go show Pat some love. And yeah, I'll be back at the end to make sure you go over there.
All right, we're recording. Hello, this is Pittsburgh Pat with
Ryan Doyle, kicking my camera right away out of the gate.
of the Verdigris table. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, kick the camera and blow into the microphone.
I got a filter. People love that.
ASMR filter, yes, which is no filter. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, which we've done before, and we'll probably do again. And we're going to talk about our favorite, well, maybe not favorite. I picked 5 tier 1 magic items and 5 tier 2 magic items, and you did the same, I think.
I did the same, and it was a challenge because we talked about it quickly, and we're like, all right, we're each going to pick the 5 best common or uncommon and the 5 best rare. And in the process of doing it, I was like, how do you define what the best magic items are, right? Like, am I building a character? Yeah. Am I a dungeon master? So I went for the most potential for fun at the table ultimately, and there's some caveats of this would be good if I was playing a wizard or something.
so I kind of did the same thing. I went with, as a dungeon master, what would I give my level 1 characters? 1, so they wouldn't break the game, and 2, so that they could get really creative with it,
Interesting. So I think I also have more than 5 just in case we have some overlap here, because we're doing this live, baby. This is unscripted.
It's like my entire channel is unscripted, so this is perfect. Oh, by the way, I've been watching your walks in the woods, and I really like those. I think those are great. So if anybody from my channel hasn't seen Ryan's, go to the Verdigris table and watch his walks in the woods with a DM, and I just love that format. It's great.
It's nice. I'm a big outdoors guy. I don't know if you can see the Appalachian Trail yearbook. But not a lot of that going on right now where we live. Yesterday was a beautiful day. We were just talking before we got on the mic, but it's full winter. We've got a couple hikes in actually, which I've appreciated, but kind of is scary when it's 65 degrees in February. It does make you think a little bit, but
there's been some aberrant weather lately. But fortunately, we missed the giant snowstorm that hit the Northeast.
Yes.
So, all right, let's get started with the D&D. And yeah, okay. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. Just to get. Let's see. I want to get it in before you get it in, I guess.
Okay.
I'm gonna start with the bag o' tricks.
Oh, I love bag of tricks.
I love the bag of tricks because I like RNG. I like half of the homebrew stuff I've made magic item wise is this is pretty good, but it's also kind of wild magic at the same time. And bag of tricks
because of the random element, you mean?
Right out of the DMG. Yeah, you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah.
It's cool because I think it's one of the only uncommon things where you're actually gonna get a companion, something. You're doing a summon, but you could get a lion, you could get a weasel, right?
Weasel is always the one that gets the bad rap.
You can pull out a goat. You never are. So let's see if we can make this work.
And try to share the screen.
Yeah. Did I kill it? No, I killed it. It doesn't like it full screen on my side and seeing it on your side is what's going on.
Because we're recording?
I guess.
But the neat thing about the bag of tricks, like you said, is that that you could just like have this amazing like animal, but you don't have to be a druid. That's what I like about it. A rogue can have a bag of tricks. You don't have to be like an animal handler, expert in like nature. It's just, oh, I found this thing and now I'm gonna like just kind of spontaneously use it and see what happens.
Anybody can use it.
Yeah.
Anybody can use it. And I'll even roll like, oh, you found a bag of chicks, roll a d6. Let's figure out what color it is. Because especially if
Oh,
we have
okay.
like experienced players, they know they want the good one, right? It's just like, oh no, gray.
Oh, right, right. Because they come in different flavors.
All right, we're going pen and paper here. We're going old school because my setup ain't having it. I can't show
Sure
you
ain't
what
working,
I'm
huh?
looking at it, but on page, hold please, 154, I want to say, of the
Mhm.
Dungeon Master's Guide. The 2014 Dungeon Master's Guide. We're gonna have to start saying pretty soon, huh?
Yeah.
Uh,
I that was the first book that I bought. A friend bought the player's handbook, so I bought the DMG, and there was so much more in there. I thought for me, I love the tables and you know the magic items are abundant.
Actually, I've made a couple videos about like all the stuff you forgot's in the DMG because everyone just treats it as like the Dungeon Master, the Magic Item Catalog.
Exactly, and you mentioned it, but we should probably hit on it even more. You have a project that you're working on. You have tables. You're actually writing a book.
Yeah, yes, that is most most of what at least what I think about. That's mostly where my mental energy goes these days. So yeah, those tables are built around character backgrounds, which I think are some of the most flavorful and like underutilized aspects of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, and I am sure 5.5 or 2024 or whatever we're calling the next thing.
Yeah,
And so with
one D&D.
one D&D to rule them all, there's 50 backgrounds in there. Each of those backgrounds have 10 items, I should say. So there's 500 items. About
Wow.
if it's a D10 table, if you roll a one, you're definitely getting like a more of like a trinket, like a very flavorful trinket, but a trinket
Yeah.
nonetheless. And then sometimes
Eh,
two is also a trinket, but so there's at least what 100 and oh boy, math, 400 magic items, 400 plus magic items, let's call it.
Ooh, that's a lot.
And it's all that's all system neutral. So it's a lot of
Doesn't have to be D&D.
it doesn't have to be D&D, some assembly required if you want, but like a lot of I've gotten very good at constructing system neutral stuff where it's like obvious how this would be in a BX or a 5e, and if you want to change it, you can make it your own. Consult with your dungeon master.
Cool.
Yeah,
All right, I'm going to see if I can share my screen. You guys, are you seeing that?
I see you just fine because you
Uh,
practiced. I was
I
writing
don't
a
know.
book
It's
while you were
just
set up.
maybe because I'm the host and you're co-host. I don't know. Anyway, the Brooch of Shielding is one that I picked. Mostly because like low level characters are squishy. Like if you're
Mm.
let's say you're like a wizard, right? And you got like 8 hit points. And you're somebody like, you come up against a mage who has a magic missiles and decides 3 of them against you, like you're toast. So like having a Brooch of Shielding could be a save the day kind of thing for a low level magic user. And the resistance to force damage, I really like that idea because I like spells that have force damage. I
Mhm.
just like, whirlwinds, things of that nature where like it's an actual it just makes when I describe those to the characters, I can make that tactile description feel like, you know what I mean? They're in the
Mhm.
room with the tornado, when they're in the room with the storm. So I really like using that particular class of damage. But
I love differentiating damage types. I wish we did more of it, honestly. We do it in the description side of things. But yeah, force is one of those things that very few creatures or classes have any sort of resistance to at all. So that's definitely useful. And speaking of magic missiles, getting hit with them when you're trying to concentrate on a spell, it's like, okay, yeah, you took Warcaster, you're good at doing this, but now you're doing it 3 times, 4 times, 5 times if I upcast it. right? So you keep rolling those dice, eventually something's going to come up and you're going to drop your whatever. You're holding on to banishment or something. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a good one out of the gate
That's a
for
really good
sure.
point. And the other thing I like about the brooch is that you don't have to have it in your hand. And I
Mm,
think that's something that I've been trying to, especially as I've been playing characters, I've noticed like, you got a shield in one hand, you want to put your armor class up to 18 or something. You
mhm,
got that shield, you got that sword, magic sword, and now it's like, what else?
mhm,
So
mhm,
having something that you can wear is a big one. Plus, it can be a badge of office or it can be like an identifier. So like,
mm.
look for me. I'll be the one wearing the carnation, Well, I'll be one wearing the brooch of shielding, in the crowd.
That's what's up. That is why I took as my next pick.
Mhm.
I took the weapon of warning. One, because it's super useful to have, right? I get advantage on initiative. Awesome. I can't be surprised, right? We're camping out in the middle of the wilderness. The orcs are sneaking up on us. This sword is going to let me know it. But not described is how it does so. So you could have this, sword in my brain, but like maybe it's an axe, maybe it's a dagger, right? Because you don't have to be holding it. Again, you just have to, it has to be in your backpack somewhere. And this thing just starts
Right.
shouting at you. So, hey,
Yeah. Is it
this,
Lord of the Rings where like it glows when
Mhm,
danger comes, or is it
mhm.
Scream? Is it a singing sword?
Did I just give you an NPC in your pocket that you're to carry with you wherever you go? So, like,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
this thing is a jerk, right?
Or,
Maybe.
or yeah, or maybe it's the stereotypical Warner Brothers cartoon lady sees a mouse kind of scream, like ah,
Mhm,
and then
mhm,
it just is so annoying that people are like, why are you still carrying that sword? Well, it saved our lives like five
mhm.
times.
I like that. It's just like afraid of everything. It's constantly telling you to like run away
Yeah,
from every
yeah.
fight.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
That's
Don't,
cool.
don't go in the current. It's too strong. The current's too strong. Don't do that. Oh, this bridge is too high. Don't.
Yeah, the more ways you can put the fear into them, the better, right? So if you have a paranoid sword, ooh, that's fair. See, it's funny. I almost went the opposite direction. Like the last guy you had, it was level 15, so he thinks you schlubs are the worst, and he's just
Right.
constantly busting chops all day.
It's a hand-me-down sword.
Yeah, I mean, someone they
Yeah,
didn't make it, right? Somebody had it. It was sitting in a
that
dungeon for 100 years because the
that
last
is.
adventurer dropped it there.
I had not thought of that. That is fantastic. Because it's a magic item. It's very long-lived.
Hmm.
Uh-huh. All right. My next one is the classic bag of holding.
Good one.
I mean, I as a DM trust my player characters to keep track of things. I don't really want to deal with encumbrance
Hmm.
unless it's a very specific situation. If I'm doing a survival game, like if we're like going through the jungles of Cholt, or something, and there's going to be dehydration, there's going to be fatigue, and I'm trying to get that across. Or if we're in Icewind Dale and they're stuck in the snow or something like that,
Hmm.
and they need to get somewhere and they're carrying all this stuff, but they need to like shed some of it, so they got to decide that kind of thing. But then once you give them a bag of holding, a lot of that stuff goes away. And but also because it has these really cool other things that you can do with it. The
Mm.
classic one is like, well, how long can we breathe inside the bag of holding if we put a person in there, right?
Hmm.
Well, first of all, how are you going to get that person in there? And then, so, okay, well, maybe somebody has like an enlarge reduce kind of thing. So they can make the character small. They put them in the bag of holding. They it's a druid who turns into a mouse and gets underneath the door, and then the bag of holding shrinks with them because it says
Hmm.
all their equipment shrinks. They get in and then it expands again. So that's an old trope. I don't know how often that's been used. I've heard it described many times. I don't know, like get creative with it, So what do you think about the bag of holding?
I love it. And I think I'm trying to think of another magic item that just like switches gameplay, right? Like either you don't have a bag of holding, right? And now you got to worry about feeding the donkey, right? To haul all your stuff around. But I give you this, and we're not tracking encumbrance anymore. And I do think at a lot of tables, in a lot of methods of play in fifth edition in the modern era, at least, like I'm not giving you an accounting problem to figure out how many copper pieces weigh what. Like that's usually not fun because that's not the point of the game.
Yeah.
The way we're playing it right now. So yeah, I give you that, and it just totally one, it takes away all of those questions, right? We're not worried about that amount of bookkeeping. And two, who's holding the bag of holding, right? Now the party has to decide the which player is going to be the bank, essentially. Who's got all the stuff. That person has the bag of holding. And then it becomes, okay, we have six healing potions. And then in the middle of the fight, it's like, well, they're all in the bag of holding. Who has the bag of holding? He's 80 feet away from you. What
Yeah,
are you going to do about it?
yeah,
Because you need to get
yeah.
to him and then go give it to her. Like,
That's right. So you give it to like the most trustworthy party member. So you give it to the paladin, but he also happens to be the tank. So he's going to go
mhm,
in close to the monster, and now
mhm.
your ranged guys are getting hit by a mage or something, and now they're like losing hit points. And like you said, it's like, what does he do? Does he try to does he disengage? Does he try to toss the potions? What happens? And are they in glass containers? Now it can get really interesting. Um,
Because
you could.
yeah, the question of like, okay, how much does everything weigh? Not that fun. Where is the stuff? In the heat of the moment, that's the choke point. That's the decision point where it's like, oh, okay, this that's the part that matters. The canonical answer to how much air is in a bag of holding is 10 minutes worth. And
That's right.
I forget.
But it depends on how many characters you stuff in there, right?
Well, that's an interesting problem. I
I
think
don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it expands.
I think it's 4x4x2. It's like not as big as it's not a storage unit, right? Like it's a storage unit in our imagination, but it's like I don't know. It's a tote, right? It's one of those Rubbermaid tote things. It's like two
Right.
feet by like 4 feet by 4 feet, I think is the dimensions of the thing. So like, and I forget, I feel bad. I forget where I read it, but like somewhere there's a bag of holding that you find, and there's a halfling skeleton inside because they pulled that trick and they didn't
It
account for the
didn't
fact that
work.
you had 10 minutes of air or like whatever. The druid had to run away without the bag of holding, and that halfling died in there.
Houdini dies with his own water trick because he can't get the handcuffs undone. Interesting. Interesting.
And then
All
you
right,
have
next
the
item.
interdimensional bomb also. We'll just
Oh,
leave that
yes.
in
Well,
there.
that I will save for level 2 because I have something up that. So we'll
Yes.
cover that.
Up next, I'm going to go with the Eversmoking Bottle.
Oh, tell me about that.
The Eversmoking Bottle is you pull the cork and it's a 60-foot radius, boom, obscured.
Whoa.
I don't care if you have dark vision, it's obscured, right? It's not darkness, it's smoke. And then I plan to have it in front of me, but it expands over time. So the first time they're like, what's in this? Is this a potion? It might ruin their day, right? Especially if it's in the middle of a fight or something. All of a sudden, everyone's like, put the cork back in, you jerk. And it takes a minute to dissipate. So it seems like this isn't useful at all until you come up with a clever way to use it. And you're talking about, I don't know, a heist situation. You're talking
Mm.
about, all right, the druid can turn into a snake and has blind sight and whatever. I have blind fighting. Like there's ways to use it to your advantage, but it requires not only strategy for like the one turn where it gets activated, but it actually takes like party synergy because it could be awesome, but you could also be ruining everybody else's turn by taking away their ability to see, essentially. So it's the kind of thing you have to think about, and it's the kind of thing where it's not just like ooh numbers go up. It's like okay, you have to be strategic about this. You're going to be clever and make decisions. And then when that pays off, it's not just like the dice giving it to you or like, oh, I rolled a 12 instead of an 8. It's like, okay, we did what we set out to do. And that's always the good stuff for me. And there's a million clever ways to do it, right? You
Yeah,
open
I
it up
mean,
in a
it's
open it up in a crowded tavern and yell fire, right? And now you got the place to yourselves. There's all sorts of useful, tricksy ways to use it.
yeah, tricksy. I like that. I think the thing with controlling the battlefield is a
Mm,
big deal, right? So like, you've got like a rogue who's in a forward position and remaining crouched behind a bush or whatever. The caravan that they're going to rob or detain is going to, like, let's say like a Robin Hood scenario. They're gonna rob the sheriff of Nottingham, right? And he's proceeding up the road, and so you have a forward scout who waits until the party is there's a separation, like the lead group, like of the vanguard, let's say. There's a small division between them and the main party, and so you can like wait until the opportune moment to obscure the area between the soldiers in the front, who can then be like handled, isolated, handled. And you could even do like the old switch costumes kind of thing, and like pull them off their horses, take their costumes, detain them, and then jump on the horses, and then at a later time you can ride into the castle with the sheriff and surprise King John or something like that. So it's there's so many different kinds of ideas. But even on the open battlefield, just like funneling people into a certain area, like you're trying to get the enemies into a group so that the wizard can cast fireball or something of that nature. So you make the escape routes less appealing and just naturally difficult to negotiate.
And when you're thinking in those terms, you start to see the whole situation. You're not just sitting waiting for your turn. Like you're watching every other move, be it the enemies or your allies. You're engaged. It's just ups engagement the whole time when you're trying to control the battlefield like that.
And it gives opportunity for people to have those kinds of special skills, like like spike growth and things of that nature, where they can like interact, and they're all doing it. And I think that's the sort of play that I like to encourage, where the party feels like a party. And not just like, oh, it's the rogue's turn. Oh, it's the ranger's turn. He's going to shoot his bow. Oh, it's this. No. It's everybody's involved in the plan, and everybody has a part to play. And then the party feels like a party. So when they get their victory, it's a communal victory.
Exactly. It's not just who gets the last hit on the guy.
Yeah, which happens so often. In fact, I had a character who came in second a couple times in Adventure League, and so I just made that his thing. Like he's always been trying to vindicate himself because he's been seen as a folk hero. Like, but the guy who he supposedly killed in battle fell on top of his sword accidentally, and so he was like, holding the sword when discovered, and they're like, "Oh my God, you killed like the colonel, of the enemy," and he's like lauded and feted, and he's like, "No, okay," and then he goes along with it, but then he feels like a fraud. So now, ever since, he's trying to vindicate himself by doing something valorous in battle. Because he really didn't the first time, but he's been getting credit for it for all these years.
That's interesting. And it's somewhere out there, there's a player character who's done a ton of damage, but has technically never killed anyone. And that's, how do they feel about that? Is that a justification for them? Or are they like sheepish about it? Or they're just the assist master?
Yeah, or are they like, is it part of their conscientiousness? Like they're like, well, I will do damage, but I won't kill. Like, are they like the monk, that like, well, somebody else has to do that. It's out of my hands. I can't take a life. That would be an interesting oath, actually, for a paladin or something.
Just everything is non-lethal. And then if I knock the guy out and someone else gets to him,
that's not my problem.
Not my problem. Not my preference.
So it's like questionable morals, like living to the letter of the law and not the actual. All right, let's try this one. The Horn of Silent Alarm.
Ooh.
So I thought I had a picture. I guess not. So I really like this, especially when you read the description. So you use it 4 times a day, but only one creature or party member of your choice can hear the alarm, right? So you're like blowing this horn and nobody else can hear it. And I just thought, how comical would that be? Like, like you're actually like, oops, I was going to double share. That's like a bag of holding thing. Don't do that. So, how cool would it be? Like here's Patrick over here going in this giant, Viking horn kind of thing, hollowed out horn thing. And everybody's going, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? Meanwhile, 600 feet away, your familiar or your buddy or whatever is like getting the signal, like right now, now's the time, so.
And that also, that opens up other ways of playing and strategizing, because communication is huge. You split the party, how do you talk? No one's got message, or they're out of the range, or I don't want to burn a slot for sending or something. So beyond the cartoonish quality of it all, which I'm a big fan of.
think of the possibility for a heist, right? Okay, right. So like, You got somebody who's in like a Trojan horse kind of situation. They're being carried in with the loot. They're inside the vault. They're going to break, the lock from the inside, or they're going to open the door somehow. And you need to know when the party needs to know, needs to let them know when they're ready, or vice versa. So maybe you have two silent horns. You have one on the guy inside and one on the party outside, and then you can like send
So
a signal.
you got a halfling in the bag of holding, which goes into the vault. When he hears the horn, he pops out because you got 10 minutes. You got to do it quickly. Blow the horn. He pops out with the Eversmoking Bottle. He opens that bad boy up, and all of a sudden, it seems like the vault's on fire. And that's
Yes.
the fastest way to get that door open, right?
Yeah.
Boom.
That's right. Especially if it's paper currency.
Yeah.
Speaking of currency, you were mentioning copper pieces. This isn't a magic item, but I thought it was really clever. I was talking to somebody online. They didn't have any weapons to against were creatures like werewolves, were tigers, that kind of stuff. They didn't have any silver weapons, so they used silver pieces in a slingshot or a sling, and so now they always carry like rolls of dimes with them, like into battle ever since that one encounter. And I thought, boy, that's a really clever idea.
It's not bad, man. Sock full of quarters is a thing.
That's right. It could hurt.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, what did you? I'd give him a D4, right? D4 plus strength. What improvised weapon? What would you do?
Yeah, at least you got a projectile that's going to do some damage. I mean, I think that's probably what I would do. Yeah. Well, you'd have to it'd be death by 1,000 cuts or 1,000 dimes. All right, I think it's your turn.
I'm gonna go with Alchemy Jug. I went back and forth because it's something that like people are like, oh, and then they forget they have it. But if you think about it, what can you do? I got it in front of me. It makes, I think it's 10 gallons. Oh, 8 gallons of fresh or 12 gallons of salt water. So right away, it's like create water, but two, it can pump out acid. It can pump out poison, right? Everyone's like, oh, it makes beer. I have an infinite supply of beer. Awesome. Funny. But like you start collecting, I don't know, using the honey to make things sticky or just to sell them. But like, yeah, oil, super useful. Acid, poison, super useful things. And if you have an infinite supply of them, now you're starting to, this thing coats every arrow that you shoot in poison if you take the time to set yourself up right. And then also just like an absurd amount of mayonnaise, right? What is the 2 gallons of mayonnaise, which makes me a little queasy. But yeah, if somebody
if you have the chef feet, then that could come in handy. I think when you mentioned back-to-back poison and honey, it reminded me of something. I think it's in Suetonius. It might be in Livy. It's the army, the Roman army apparently came into camp that had been abandoned by the German. I guess it was the Arminius, his tribe. I forget what the name of the tribe was, but they were in Germania, and there was all this honey there, right? Well, the honey had been made by bees who had, I think it was hemlock. I think it was they had made it from hemlock flower, so it was poisonous. So the Romans found this like abandoned camp with a bunch of different food supplies. The honey was in there as well, and the Germans basically used poison to incapacitate much of the legion. So then that's based on like an historical source. I don't know how true it is, but interesting. So you could play something that way too with the alchemy jar.
And those are the stories that get told 2,000 years later, right? Like, I don't know. There was one Visigoth with a big axe, right? And he did a lot of damage, but like, yeah, they were clever enough to poison the honey and leave it behind, and literally they honey trapped him.
Yeah, literally the honey trap. Yeah. I think that it's interesting for me I think that's why I read history so much. I love fiction. I was a fiction writing major, but I also had a minor in history. And if I went on for my graduate stuff, I probably would have gone for history because there's so many good stories, and it's hard to like make these things up, although I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there were historians at the time who took license with some of it to exaggerate, and some are more reliable than others. But even if there's a kernel of truth in that, it says a lot about the Romans and being able, one of the things I like about the Romans is they in general, it seems like they're willing to admit their defeats, you know, and that makes for a story because then they're the underdog when they do win, right? If you're just like, oh, we won every time, that story gets boring after a while, you know. And the same with D&D. Like, you know, if you let your characters get away with murder untouched, you know, no damage taken, like they're gonna get bored with your campaigns after a while. You know?
Yes, I was just having this conversation yesterday, actually. Yeah, I don't play video games on like God mode, right? Like I'm not looking to make my AC 30 so nothing can ever touch me. Like that's fun for a session, but not for a campaign, right? Like there's no stakes. Nothing matters anymore.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why like my first choice was not like right now my tier 1 players finally just got enough gold to go shopping for magic items, and like the wizard wants the band of intellect, the barbarian wants, you know, gauntlets of ogre strength, and like can't blame them. I want my main stat up as high as I can get it for free. Yeah, or not for free, but without investing my ability scores. I'm a wizard who dumped int because I got a magic item. Like I see the appeal of it, but like give me the Eversmoking Bottle, right? Give me the Alchemy
That's
Jug. Give me the weird stuff.
I see. I would let my wizard do that, but then I would find a way to take the headband away. I would find a moment where it's like, okay, you want to be stupid? You're stupid now. Now you have an int of 6, and now you're gonna have to deal with it. So what do? You know, and it could be so fun because I love when I make my characters personally. I like having a dump stat because I want that. I want like the really like not so smart but highly charismatic character, you know, because that's fun. Like he just walks into danger and he's just not real smart about it, but he thinks he can charm his way out. And it's great when it doesn't work. It's fun when it does, but it's great when it doesn't work because then you have to do something else. You know, you have to come up with something.
Right.
And that's when you really dig deep into the character.
I think a lot of early career players are trying to win, and you don't. And this is not a game that you win, right? And that's why some early DMs are like taking away the lose conditions, right? Because they don't like they're thinking in terms of winning and losing, but it's stories. It's stories, right? It's the poisoned honey. It's not the 30 AC and the 1,000 points of damage. It's the you know. I mean, people are built different, so someone's going to remember that time that you remember that you crit. You don't remember that it was 42 and not 38 or whatever the number was, right? Like you remember the emotional impact. And like again, maybe someone is more mathematically minded than I am out there, and they're getting that thrill from it. But yeah, when the bottle of smoke shifts the tide of battle, that's the part that I'm going to be thinking about
Years later,
when I'm trying to fall asleep. Yeah.
Decades later, absolutely. Yeah. Is it my turn?
I think so. We went off into the weeds there a little bit, but I think yeah, the honey. Yes, I did the alchemy jug. You're up.
This could break a game. Oh, here was that was the Horn Asylum alarm. There's the
Go
picture
on.
if anybody wants. But
Go
it's the Broom of Flying. So I think you have to be careful whenever you give your characters a chance to fly, because then the battlefield becomes 3-dimensional. It becomes much more dynamic. Travel becomes easier, that sort of thing. But I mean, what's the first magical creature that I think I ever remember, right? A witch on a broom, right? Something supernatural, something that you can't do in everyday life. So maybe it's a Quidditch tournament. Maybe it's a Harry Potter kind of thing. Maybe it's situational. Yeah, you can have a broom, but you don't have it forever. You have it for like a particular module, and then for some reason it gets taken away. So maybe you make the broom have charges. You know, maybe it's an old broom that's falling apart and is ready to be retired, but you're not sure how much longer you can fly it. So you know, as a DM, you can have conditions on these things. They don't have to be, you know, RAW. You know, it doesn't have to be rules as written. You can modify these things, and should, I think, because you don't want it to be broken. You don't want all of a sudden to have one character who can do something that none of the other characters can do and always does it, and you know, wins the kill shot every time, and and just outstages everyone. You want it to be I want it to be a party atmosphere. Now, if you're playing one-on-one, like if it's a game of one where it's a DM and a player, absolutely knock yourself out. I give them, but if it's more than two people at the table.
And that's game balance is important for that very reason, right? It's not just like I can do anything on my side with the monsters, right? Like I can balance the game right away. It's much harder for me to balance the game on the other side of the table. You got 5 players and somebody's min-maxing and can fly, right? And someone else has a 25-foot walking speed. Like there's an inequity there right away. I like the Broom of Flying for sure. I don't think it should be uncommon because it totally changes the game. But for a dungeon master out there who has handed one out and is sad about it now and is thinking about how to take it away, ceilings, the dungeon, right? Half of your adventuring, but someone it's a higher level. What are they? They're level 7, level 8 now, but someone has a Broom of Flying in my other campaign, and how high are the ceilings gets asked every session.
Every time, yeah.
Every session. And yeah, it's interesting. The other thing that I was thinking of when you were saying the witch being the most iconic, magical creature early on in like childhood fantasy, most of the time in most adventures, the players are finding a magic item in a dusty treasure chest somewhere buried in a corner, hidden behind a secret door. But like, why is it not in the hands of a goblin or something, right? There's monsters that live in here. They would have found it, and they're going to use it against the party.
Heck yeah!
Before the party gets their hands on it. So this wizard's pretty tough. This wizard that's flying around is way tougher.
Yeah.
And now I've earned that broom.
Yeah, I want that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You see that, you see him attacking your buddies, and you're like, I want that. I'm going to knock that guy down. Yeah. Focus on the flyer.
And especially with these like weird things, right? Or like not necessarily like clearly tactical things out of the gate, right? Like the Alchemy Jug, or like, where the hell did they get 2 gallons of mayonnaise, right? What
and if they're using it in a weird way, like if they're using it to like grease the path to make
exactly
terrain, or
that's
something.
Cobalt stuff in my head canon, right?
Like, right, because they don't know what that is. Like they're like, oh, what is this? And then they just like smear it on the ground so that they hope the adventurers will slip.
And then you get like swarmed with vermin because you're covered in mayonnaise. Or like, yeah. You can think of, yeah, ooh, gross.
Yeah, well, yeah, but like if you have a creature that's impervious to smell or doesn't think bad smells are bad, they don't care, right?
Oh my God, it's fresh. It's always fresh mayonnaise in my mind. Yeah, you leave that out in the sun for a couple of days. It's a biological weapon, man. It's a whole other thing.
It's a place nobody wants to go.
See, that it's just it builds. There's so many different ways to use it. The more you think about it, the more weird and wild you get with it.
So that's why I wanted to do this video, because it's so much fun to bounce ideas off each other. It snowballs.
Right.
You got, what's your number 5?
Well, so speaking of breaking the game, the Deck of Illusions.
Oh yeah,
is an uncommon magic item, and it is not going to break your game. But if you find a deck of cards, the players are going to be super excited and super terrified. If they have any knowledge of D&D canon, like if I show you a deck of cards, you think it's a deck of many things right away. They just wrote another book about it, right? So you have to pull one to see what it is, right? Unless you take it to the wizard and identify it or something like. So someone's taken that risk, and okay, the game's not over, but now. And there's that moment of like a beholder pops out. It's like, what and okay, it's illusory. And it's also that RNG, like you don't know what you're getting until you pull it. It's one of a few things where like you literally use a deck of cards, so there's like a prop involved. It's just, yeah, it's a fun one. And now it's a question of all the creative ways you can use an illusory monster to get up to hijinks and control the battlefield.
So do you do that? Do you bring like props to the table?
Sometimes. It's funny. At I got used to playing online. At my in-game or in-person game at Game Masters. Hold on, I'm mirrored.
Oh, you have a
You
Game
reckon-
Master shirt.
I have a Game Master
Cool.
shirt.
I don't
which
have one yet. I have to get one.
I saw it at PGX, and I didn't
Oh, okay.
realize. So for those who are not in the know, Game Masters is both of our friendly neighborhood local game shop.
Yeah, I'm going there tonight.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah.
And I have a couple players who are into 3D printing and minis and stuff. So like I am using the most minis I've ever used, and none of them are mine, which is interesting and fun. It adds like a different element. Once in a while, I had healing potions that I brought out. But yeah, the deck of cards is about as advanced as I get, and I roll in the open. I guess that's my prop is dice always. Like the dice are always out in front of the players. They see what's happening. I don't use a screen, so like everybody sees. If I crit on you, sorry, but
Yeah.
we're all gonna know the instant it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, we used to have a pottery studio, my wife and I
Oh.
used to try to make like potion
Ooh.
bottle shapes. So like this was one of my early attempts. And this is on my table. The fact that you mentioned that was pretty wild. But yeah, I wanted to make one that was like a flask of oil, right? So I just always imagined it being like a ceramic jar with like a, cloth stuffed in it, like a Molotov cocktail kind of thing you throw, right? And then you want to make it thin so that it breaks, right, on impact and has that splatter effect. So I went through that phase where I was trying to make different shapes like that. But I love using props. So like I've even gone so far as to like look up like the goblin written language and write like things in a notebook in goblin or draconic. Like the other day, actually, this isn't a visual thing, this is a phonetic thing, or a voice thing, but I've been taking Latin on Duolingo. So I had ran an adventure with a red dragon. And so at one point I said something like, Corina domi dormit. And people were like, oh my God, what the hell?
Draconic is Latin.
Like,
I think also maybe Abyssal is Latin.
Oh, Abyssal is definitely Latin. And I did have an Abyssal character as well. And we needed to find out its true name, the demon's true name. So I did something in Latin with that as well.
Yeah,
but then they said afterwards, what did that mean? And I said, it meant Korean, Corina sleeps at home. But when you say it like in character,
oh sure,
Corina domi dormit, it sounds like a red dragon. And they don't know. I mean, most people don't know Latin, so but I think pulling those kinds of elements into the game, something physical, like something they can like writing on a piece of cloth. Take your old T-shirt that you were gonna like throw away, or and cut a little piece out and write on it, because goblins wouldn't have paper, right? But they might have some cloth, right? And they would probably write on that. So like, just like a one-word phrase, maybe it's the password that opens the door. Maybe it's a clue to the password. Maybe you give them a fragment. These kinds of things. I have players who have said like later that that's what they remembered the most was, oh, I remember when you gave me that piece of thing and I still have it, and I always let them keep it too. Like they just keep it.
Yeah, it's funny. Handouts are a different thing in my head, right? Like if I can print it and like tea stain it or something, like that's 100% a prop. Because like, yeah, huge fan of handouts, right? Like this is what the letter says that you discover on the desk. You're not going to retain that the same way as like, this is the letter.
This is the letter.
Like, and you have it, and like it's visceral and it's immersive, and you have it next session. You know what's on that letter because you have that letter. I'm a big fan of the goblins. Like the missive is on some like nondescript hide. Like this was something skin. You don't know what. Like make a nature check. Nope.
Right.
Could be anything.
Yeah, it was tanned and cured, and you don't know what it was. Could be human. Could be elf. You could be anything. Could be a deer. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
In the grand
should we go to tier 2?
Sure. Yeah, that was 10.
Yep.
Upgrade.
That was fast.
Ooh, time flies when you're having fun. And that was a ton of fun. And that was only half of the conversation. To check out the rest, to see the tier 2 magic items, 10 awesome things you can give to your players or covet if you are a player right now over on Pittsburgh Pat's channel. Check it out. Enjoy it. tell him Ryan sent you and show Pat some love. He's a great dude. Thanks so much for watching this bonus episode of the Verdigris Table all the way through. I will see you very soon. Be kind. Have fun. Bonus.